Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Merry Christmas, happy holiday season. I hope you are enjoying yourself. Today I'm coming at you with a bunch of different cozy book recommendations and books that I just think are perfect to read at this time of year, seasonally, or just because they give me cozy vibes. And I wanted to share those with you guys and see what you guys had in terms of thoughts. Do you like any of these? Would you recommend these yourself? Are there other books that you might add to this list that you think kind of go along with some of the same vibes? Let me know in the comments. Without further ado though, let's get started. The first book that I want to talk about is definitely a classic. It's definitely one that most people have probably heard of, read, or if they've not read it, they've definitely seen people talking about it, and that is the When Calls the Heart series by Jenna Oak. To me, nothing says winter and cozy winter curl up by the fire vibes than When Calls the Heart and the Canadian West and the Canadian Northwest all covered in snow. So I love this series. It's one that I've read time and time again. The pages are yellowed, they're torn, they're bent in some places, and it's just like, honestly, the cover's even peeling up. But I love these books. I adore these books. They're some of the first books that I ever read when I kind of started transitioning from like children's books to like grown-up books, if that makes sense, because I was always a reader growing up, but there was definitely like a turning point in terms of what I enjoyed to read. And for me, the When Calls the Heart series, specifically the first four like original books, were just the peak in terms of the highest point of literature for me at the time. So I definitely associate these with cozy vibes, and there's just so many wintry scenes in this book and in the books that follow, with snow and snowed in and snowshoes and just snow vibes, that these are just such winter comfort reads for me. I think it's been years since I talked about this series on this channel, so all that to say, those are the vibes. Kind of carrying along in that same vein, I'm also recommending the Love Comes Softly series, and I do want to give a quick shout out to Alicia from fortheloveofchristianfiction.blogspot.com, because Alicia actually gave me the Love Comes Softly series in this set. So I grew up with like older style cover Love Comes Softly, and then we didn't have those books anymore. They got passed on, moved on somewhere else, went to new homes, and then I rebought the series when I was older, but I had the newer covers and I didn't like the newer covers as much, and Alicia knew that, so she found some of the older cover editions for me, and now I have the whole series in this style of cover, which matches my When Calls the Heart series, and it makes my little reader heart very happy. So thank you to Alicia. This video is totally sponsored by you. Just kidding, it's not. But the Love Comes Softly series is, again, they're just comfort reads. They're small little books. They're just cozy, like, oh, I just want to get lost in a story. And I don't know if you can tell, there is a bit of a theme to this video, because to me, nothing says cozy like historical fiction, 1800s, pioneers going west kind of covered wagon stories. And because those two books are both kind of classics in the Christian fiction community, I don't really feel like they need that much explaining, except for the fact that I adore them. The next book on this list is Where We Belong by Lynn Austen, or pretty much any Lynn Austen book. Honestly, I wouldn't say that these are necessarily cozy books because they're short, but I would say that they are cozy, kind of comforting books because they're very, I don't know how else to explain this, but like soft. Does that make sense? Like they're sort of quiet. Like, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of drama in this book and in many of Lynn Austen's books, but reading them just kind of feels like quiet, cozy. I'm feeling a little literary. I'm just feeling like relaxing and reading something that sort of is slow and softly builds over time to eventually being like this beautiful masterpiece kind of book. That's kind of how I feel about Lynn Austen books. They're very long. They're very beautiful. You stay with the characters for typically like a long period of time in most of the Lynn Austen books that I have read. And again, there's just like this kind of softness quality to them. The narrative voice is very like just steady and a slow build until you get to this point of a perfect ending or a perfect conclusion and all the points and pieces kind of coming together. So for that reason, Lynn Austen's books end up on this list, but this one specifically because this is one of my favorite books by her ever. It's 1800s, but it's The City of Chicago, which I realize you might not be able to tell from the cover since it's got camels and pyramids on it, but I'll just go ahead and read to you guys the back cover because it's gonna explain it better than I ever could. And that is, in the city of Chicago in 1892, the rules and expectations for Victorian women are strict, their roles in life limited, but sisters Rebecca and Flora Hawes are not typical Victorian ladies. Their love of adventure and their desire to use their God-given talents have taken them out of society ballrooms and delivered them to the Sinai Desert and into the teeth of a sandstorm. Accompanied by Soren Peterson, their somber young butler, and Kate Rafferty, a plucky street urchin learning to be their lady's maid, the two women are on a quest across the desert chasing rumors of an important biblical manuscript. As the expedition becomes ever more dangerous and uncertain, all four travelers sift through the memories and adventures of their past, recalling the events that shaped them and the journeys and providence that brought them to this very time and place. So it's got mystery, it's got intrigue, it's got adventure, it's just got these beautiful elements. And like I said, there's something about Lynn Austen's writing to me that's just very like slow, steady, soft, comforting. It really just like kind of slowly builds, and that's something that around the holidays and in winter and just in like colder months in general, I love getting lost in a story like this. And this one also has some of those mystery elements, which is again another perfect kind of genre for the wintry season. Mystery, historical, just anything cozy vibes. But I definitely recommend this book, and it is probably one of my favorite books ever. So for that reason, definitely check this one out. Again, that's Where We Belong by Lynn Austen. The next book I actually recommended to you guys previously in my return to YouTube video of books I read recently that were not biblical fiction, and this is perfect for winter just because it's all about being snowed in and stuck in the snow, and that is One More River to Cross by Jane Kirkpatrick. And this book is based on the true story of the party that came before the Donner Party. So before the Donner Party, there were other parties of wagon trains that came trying to go west to California, and this would be the party before the Donner Party and how they kind of got snowed in and got stuck in the Sierra Nevadas on their way in to the valley and didn't know what was going to happen to them, didn't know if they were going to survive, and kind of had to just like figure out how to get through some really difficult circumstances. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I love pioneer stories. I love, you know, covered wagon vibes, and the harsh winter conditions and all these kinds of things just draw me into a wintry seasonal story, and this cover is just all of the vibes. And I have very fond memories of reading this book because I read this book last winter when I was preparing to move out of California, because if you didn't know, in 2022, 2023, my husband and I moved across the country to the Midwest. So we kind of felt a little bit like pioneers as we were moving in the wintry months, but not into California, out of California for his job and his work and that kind of thing. So I'm just sort of attached to this story now. There's a lot of beautiful elements to it. The cover is beautiful. The message is beautiful. It's definitely like a slower kind of read in my opinion. It's not necessarily like action-packed, but there's so many things where when I read it, I kept having to like flip to the back and really think like, wait, did this actually happen? And then I'd look at the back of like the author's note and like the research and discussion questions and things like that, and there was just a lot that kind of blew my mind. So highly recommend this one if you're into like a wintry snowstorm kind of story. And going back to the theme of classics and sticking to the wintry snowstorm kind of pioneer vibes, I just want to say there's something about the books we read when we're kids that really just stick with us in a very special way. And for me, the Little House on the Prairie books are just like, they're what I grew up reading. My first book report was going to school dressed as Laura and giving a book report on the Little House on the Prairie series. I feel like everyone or almost everyone, a lot of us have stories about like, where were you when you discovered Little House on the Prairie? And that was definitely me. And I enjoyed the whole series, but when I think about winter, I always think about The Long Winter, which is one of the books in the series about like the years that they faced the harsh winter and the blizzards and the snowstorms and the ice and all these like big dramatic things. And you know, it's just nothing says seasons to me like pioneers getting close together on by the fire and all those kinds of things. So and even when I was a kid, I watched the Little House TV show literally every single day, and my favorite episodes were always like the Christmas episodes or the snow episodes, or the one where Miss Beadle let the children go home early from school because it was snowing, but the snow turned into a blizzard and the children got lost. I'm getting heart palpitations just thinking about it, but again, there's just something about the books we read as kids that sticks with you. And it's always fun to kind of revisit those stories too around this time of year, because what brings out the child in you more than Christmas time does? And the last book that I want to put on this list is The Chronicles of Narnia. This would be The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I love the movie. I love the soundtrack, but I actually remember reading these books by listening to the audiobooks and the audio dramas. So there's just something very nostalgic about those to me and very cozy. And the Chronicles of Narnia is a great movie, or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is a great movie any time of year, but especially around Christmas and the holiday season. And I just love it, love it, love it. I love it all so much. So those are some of my book recommendations for cozy reads or cozy books or books to read around winter and this time of year. Let me know what you thought. Have you guys read any of these? Which books would you add to this list and why? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you again so much for watching. Once again, my name is Jenna Van Mourik, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!